It was a bright Saturday morning in the luxurious home of Ethan Cole, one of the most successful billionaires in the city. His mansion sat high above the ocean, filled with glass walls, marble floors, and the quiet hum of wealth. But behind that beauty, something dark was brewing, something even money couldn't hide. Ethan's father, Samuel, was a proud man in his 70s. Once a hard-working construction worker, Samuel had raised Ethan alone after losing his wife years ago. But after a stroke left him paralyzed from the waist down, he moved into Ethan's home for care. At first, things seemed fine. Ethan's wife, Clara, promised to take care of him while Ethan was busy running his empire. "Don't worry," she had said sweetly. "I'll treat him like my own father." But those were just words. One morning, while Ethan was away at the office, Clara stood in the dining room, watching Samuel struggle to hold a spoon. The soup trembled in his shaky hand and spilled across the table. "Can't you do anything right?" she sighed sharply, rolling her eyes. Samuel looked down quietly, whispering, "I'm sorry, dear. My hands aren't what they used to be." Instead of helping, Clara crossed her arms. "You're making a mess every single day. I clean after you, feed you, bathe you, and this is what I get." Her tone was cold. The warmth she showed when Ethan was around was gone. Samuel's lips trembled. He didn't argue. He didn't complain. He just looked out the window, the reflection of his old, calloused hands, staring back at him. Hands that once built homes, now unable to even hold a spoon. Later that week, while Ethan was in a board meeting, he received a call from Mrs. Green, the elderly neighbor who lived across the street. "Ethan, I don't mean to interfere," she began hesitantly, "but I saw Clara yelling at your father again. He looked so frightened. I thought you should know." Ethan froze. "That can't be right," he said. "Clara takes care of him." But something in Mrs. Green's voice, the tremor, the sadness, made his stomach twist. He thanked her politely and hung up, trying to focus on his work. But the image of his frail father being scolded kept flashing in his mind. That evening, he went home earlier than usual, quietly, without calling ahead. When Ethan stepped into the mansion, the lights were dim. He could hear Clara's voice echoing faintly from the living room. "Do you have any idea how much I've sacrificed?" she hissed. "While you sit here all day doing nothing, I'm stuck taking care of you. You're a burden. Samuel, that's what you are." Ethan froze behind the doorway. He peeked in, and his heart broke. Clara stood in front of his father, her face twisted with anger. Samuel sat in his wheelchair, trembling, tears streaming down his cheeks. His plate of food lay spilled on the floor. "Clara," Ethan said, stepping forward, his voice cold and low. She turned, startled, her face draining of color. "Ethan, you're home early." "I am," he said quietly, "and I just saw everything." The silence in the room was thick. Ethan's gaze was locked on her, every ounce of disbelief and fury showing in his eyes. "You said you'd take care of him," he said slowly. "You promised me he was happy here." Clara tried to speak. I was just frustrated. He's difficult sometimes. You don't know what it's like enough." Ethan interrupted. His voice was calm, but his hands trembled with anger. "That man built everything I have. He worked in the rain, in the cold, just to feed me. And now that he can't walk, you treat him like trash." Clara's lips quivered. "I didn't mean to." Ethan turned away. "You did. You just didn't think I'd find out." He walked to his father, knelt beside him, and gently wiped his tears. "I'm so sorry, Dad," he whispered. "I should have been here." Samuel shook his head weakly. "No, son, don't be angry. She's just tired. Maybe I ask for too much." That broke Ethan even more. Even after being humiliated, his father defended her. The next morning, Ethan made a quiet decision. While Clara was still asleep, movers arrived at the mansion. They began packing her things, everything she owned. Clara came running down the stairs in shock. "What's going on?" she shouted. Ethan stood near the door, his father's wheelchair beside him. "You're leaving," he said simply. "You don't deserve this home. You don't deserve him." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "Ethan, please. I lost my temper. I can do better." "It's not about temper," he replied firmly. "It's about respect. And you lost mine the moment you disrespected my father." She begged, but Ethan didn't respond. As she left, Samuel looked up at his son. "She's gone." "Yes," Ethan said softly. Samuel sighed. "Don't hate her, son. Hate only poisons the soul." Ethan nodded slowly. His father, the man she'd mistreated, still chose kindness. That moment stayed with him. Weeks passed. The house became quieter but warmer. Ethan hired a professional caregiver, a gentlewoman, who treated Samuel with patience and care. Every morning, Ethan joined his father for breakfast, feeding him himself when he struggled. The two spent more time together than ever before. They laughed, shared memories, and watched the sun set from the garden Samuel once helped build with his own hands. One afternoon, Ethan looked at him and said, Dad, I spent my whole life chasing money, but I forgot the real treasure was sitting right here. Samuel smiled faintly. Money can build walls, son, but love builds homes. Tears filled Ethan's eyes. He leaned down and hugged his father tightly, the kind of hug he hadn't given in years. A few months later, word got around about what had happened, how the billionaire chose love and respect over pride in appearances. People admired him for it. Even Clara, from afar, sent a letter of apology. Ethan never responded, but he forgave her in his heart for his father's sake. On a quiet evening, as they sat together in the garden, Samuel looked at the horizon and said, "You did good, son." Ethan smiled, holding his father's hand. "No, Dad, you did. You taught me that no amount of wealth means anything without compassion." The camera would pull back slowly, the golden sunset shining behind them, peace finally resting over their home. Moral of the story: hate divides, but kindness heals. No matter how rich or powerful you are, true greatness comes from how you treat those who once cared for you.